Episode 104, Coffee with John and Dennis McIntee.
Today is gonna be a little something more. I've got a plan in mind, a special thing in store. The light bulb inside my head says, get out and play, 'cause you never feel this way. It's my lucky day.
Well, welcome, friends, to another episode of Coffee with John, Caregiver Success. You know, we're all about inspiring conversations with family and professional caregivers. You know, the life of a professional caregiver can often be full of drama. The up and downs of emotional roller coaster that we experience each day with those we care for can often create drama in the workplace. But today, we're going to have coffee with Dennis McIntee. Now, he's the drama-free guy, and he has helped hundreds of healthcare organizations transform their cultures by eliminating workplace drama. But first, a good word for caregivers.
God cares for caregivers. Remember, He's one too. Do you remember this phrase? Day by day and with each passing moment, God will take care of you. All you may need, He will provide. Nothing you ask will be denied. Think of that. You see, it's in the book of Philippians where Paul says, my God will meet all your needs according to His glorious riches in Christ Jesus. And I know that to be true. And you know that to be true. And you need to be reminded of it right now. He can supply your need. He will provide. He gives provision. It's His to give. You see, He's called in the Old Testament Jehovah Jireh, the Lord who provides. And whatever your need is right now, and it may be one that's spiritual, maybe it's mental, maybe it's emotional, maybe it's physical, maybe it's financial. Any one of those, God is able to do exceeding abundantly above all that you could think or ask. So you can ask because He's got the provision. He is able to do it, and He wants to do it. So ask. Ask. It will not be denied, I can assure you. I want to remind you, God loves you, and He cares for caregivers. Remember, He's one too.
Welcome back. We're having coffee with Dennis McIntee, the drama-free guy. Now, Dennis has helped hundreds of healthcare organizations transform their work culture, increase the effectiveness of leaders and their teams, and effectively navigate change initiatives, all with lasting impact on bottom-line results for tens of thousands of healthcare professionals. In short, Dennis is a caregiver for caregivers. Welcome to the show, Dennis.
Hey, thanks, John. And that was such a great introduction. You can come with me anywhere.
Oh, well, thank you so much. So Dennis, tell me a little bit about drama-free teams, and how does this relate to professional caregivers?
Well, John, I think we first have to identify what really is drama. So have you ever, say, not reached a goal? Maybe you've set a goal and not reached a goal, or maybe you've made excuses or justified why things are the way they are. That's all drama. John.
I've never done that.
Well, of course, and you're not like everybody,
right?
Okay? So, right, but all of us normal people, we sort of deal with that, and so we define that all as drama.
Yeah.
Time you make an excuse, you justify, and you see it. Anytime you don't hit a goal, anytime you don't have a great outcome, I can attach some kind of drama to it. And so I'm on this mission to create 10,000 drama-free teams in the next 2 years. So it's a big work, but somebody's got to do it.
And let me just make sure. So you actually work with teams and organizations more so than one-on-one kind of coaching. Is that correct?
Mostly it's with teams, and I do some executive coaching with some senior leadership. But really what people like about me is that I am sort of a coach to a coach. And so my big gift is I don't necessarily want to just coach your team, but I want to help you be a great coach for your team.
So what are some unique challenges that you see as you've worked with people that are maybe in long-term care or healthcare? What are some unique challenges that you see with those types of teams and organizations?
Well, of course, in today's market, recruiting and retention are such gigantic problems in our industry. And so what happens in this recruiting is that people just start to make excuses. They say things like, well, it's just healthcare. And they tend to just kind of give up. You ever see that, John, where it's sort of like the fleas bouncing their head against the jar. They bounce against the jar, and then they just stop jumping so high. And then they eventually remove the lids, but the fleas stay in the jar.
Yes.
And it's sort of that same kind of thing, is that the lid is not there, but we've just got to do things differently. And many times, a lot of that drama happens when people don't feel they have a choice. And so I call that choice poverty. And the reality is that we're choice abundant. There is always something we can do. And so where we see a lot of this drama is in the recruiting and retention. People just say things like, well, there's nothing we can do. And it's such a lie, because there's always something we can do. We just got to do things a little bit different.
Yeah, I think a lot of people put those self-imposed barriers on themselves, and maybe they blame it on HIPAA, or they blame it on some regulation, or they blame it on, we've never done it that way before, and those are just self-imposed limitations that people make.
And what's interesting is that the obstacle is really the answer. That obstacle inside of it is the raw material for you to get your dreams and get your goals and get great outcomes. So many times we don't embrace obstacles. We just want to push them away, or we get mad that they're there. But we really teach teams to, let's embrace this obstacle, and then let's create some other strategies around this obstacle.
Oh, and that's great.
And many times, here's what happens is you have this obstacle, and then you get emotional, right? John, you get emotional, and then you don't think straight. And then you don't act straight. And here's what I like to tell people is that whenever you're inside of the emotion, it's just like you are on drugs.
Wow.
And we've all seen, people make bad choices when they're on drugs. So maybe like the best example is we've got a client, well, I probably shouldn't say the state, but we have a client somewhere in the Midwest. And I remember calling the administrator. She was going to have a confrontational conversation with one of her nurses. And I called her that day and I said, hey, how did it go? And as I was on the phone, John, she says, well, Dennis, I brought her into my office and we started to talk, and she threw down her hair. And
okay.
Like, yeah, exactly. I thought, throw down your hair. Is that like a Midwest term? Or, and here's what she said. She said, Dennis, she got so mad at me that she actually took off her wig and threw it on the ground. She said, Dennis, I didn't even know she was wearing a wig. And she was screaming at me, stopping on her wig. And it's like, John, we can't make this stuff up, right? So here's what happens is that, it's a very emotional business. Caregiving is very emotional, right?
Yeah, I think that's something, I think that's worth kind of emphasizing. People do not get into caregiving just for the money. These are people that are very empathetic people. They are very emotional people. And that's one of their best benefits that they bring to this industry is they care for people. They love people, but that also creates some challenges for managers and leaders because they are highly emotional people. So their biggest strength sometimes becomes their biggest weakness.
Yeah, John, it's almost like every constraint in your life is typically a strength overextended. You think any constraining factor that you have in your leadership or your business or in your team or in your relationships is typically a strength overextended. So I was just talking to a large nursing conference in Georgia a couple weeks ago. And as I was there, I told them, I talk to you every day. Your names just change. And I said, let me tell you two things about you. I said, what I really, really love about you is that you really, really care. I said, but what I really hate about you is that you just care too much. And here's what happens is that many times we overextend care and it becomes a debilitating factor. We sort of step into these codependency rescuer roles where, hey, I'm going to work harder on your job than you're willing to work on it. Hey, I'm going to work harder on your life than you're willing to work on your own life. And if we're not careful, we start to create these rescuer codependency scenarios. And the problem is that just perpetuates the drama. Because every time you rescue somebody, or let me say it this way, John, every victim loves a rescuer.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, it's sort of like if my wife, I've been married 27 years. And honestly, John, if my wife was still willing to pick up after me after I throw my clothes on the floor,
you'd still do it.
I'd still do it. Absolutely. And so it's the same with team members. It's many times, if you're going to rescue them, they will let you. And so a lot of our work is really based in how do we help caregivers stop the rescuing and create confident, creative, collaborative teams.
And when you do that, you said something just a minute ago about confrontational conversations. Can you give an example of what that conversation may look like and what is a drama-filled way to handle that confrontational conversation, and what is a drama-free way to handle that conversation?
Yeah, so let me say it this way. All progress starts when you just tell the truth, when you first tell the truth. And what happens in a drama-filled conversation is that you're not really telling the truth. And many times, everybody has needs. Let me say it this way. Everybody has needs. And learning to have a needs negotiation conversation. It's like, John, I have needs, you have needs, and we're honest about those needs. And not that I'm going to meet your needs or go codependent, but I need to know what your needs are, you need to know what my needs are, and then we just manage the agreements. And that's really a drama-free conversation is when I know your needs, you know my needs, and then we learn to manage these agreements that we have between each other. But a drama-filled conversation happens when I'm not even aware of my needs. I have no idea what your needs are. And then I just assign a meaning to things that aren't really there. It's sort of like this, John. Many times, maybe I didn't sleep last night, right? And so I come to work in the morning and I'm just grouchy and I'm just kind of mean. And I kind of justify it and say, well, it's because I didn't sleep all night.
Right.
But then the next day you come to work, John, and you're grouchy and you're mean. And I say, well, John's just a mean person.
Right.
He's just, and I assign this meaning to your behavior that's not even there without a conversation.
How important do you think, you talked about, not being aware of your own needs. What are some things that you can help, especially leaders, especially managers, team managers? What are some things that you can help them to be aware of their needs? And as a second question, what about the distinction or how is their personal needs versus their professional needs? How do those two things sort of relate and come together? Should they be separate, or is there some integration between those two things?
Well, John, I wish they could be separate, but the reality is that if you have personal problems, you have business problems. And if you have business problems, you're going to have personal problems. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've ever seen this scenario, but I'll just be honest here on the podcast, and I'll just tell America what my biggest problem is. So you ready? Here it is.
I'm ready.
Okay, here it is, John. This is my big problem. Everywhere I go, there I am.
You and I have the same problem.
Right. And so it's like if I'm disorganized and messy at home, I don't come into the community or the organization being Mr. Organized. If I'm nasty, kick the dog, yell at my wife at home, I don't come into the organization being Mr. Friendly. And so many times we say leave it at the door, but the reality is we don't leave it at the door. And part of a lot of what we teach is really helping people sort of become scientists of their own behavior. To sort of step back and teach them, I wonder why blank, blank, blank.
Yeah.
Because people do things not to hurt you, but they do things to get needs met. All behavior is about getting needs met. Now, I didn't say the behavior didn't hurt you, but just having that one little phrase when people do things. It helps me not to get into drama, because if I go into drama, John, I can't help you get out of drama.
Yeah.
So when maybe you do something that hurts me or makes me, I feel angry, I have to step back and go, I wonder what need John is trying to get met.
I'll just put a personal testimony. I was in a workshop of yours a year or two ago, and one of the things that you taught was negotiate to get your needs met. And that really has been a phrase. I've used that with my wife. I've used that with my children. I've used that with coworkers and vendors and other professional relationships. But this whole concept of negotiating to get my needs met, and that's a very different from manipulating to get my needs met or whining to get my needs met. It's a very different concept. And so I just want to say personally, thank you for that term and that phraseology.
Well, even John, I think the key thing to realize, especially with caregivers, and probably have a lot of caregivers on, listening, is that it's very healthy to get your needs met. And here's what you first have to do. You have to get your needs met first in a healthy way, instead of trying to get them met through people. And much of the drama comes in. So say I have this need of significance. I want to be in charge of something, but I don't go to my team and put that on my team to try to get that need met. I have to step back and realize, okay, I've got to get that need met in a healthy way so that I show up healthy with my team. And I tell people all the time, the best way for you to really help your team and help those around you is just for you to show up healthy.
Wow, that is a great benefit to any type of a leader. The best thing that you can do for your team is be healthy.
Absolutely. In fact, I just took a couple of days off this weekend, and on my autoresponder, I even put, listen, thank you for allowing me to pull back so I can serve you even better. And many times we've got to take care of us, put the oxygen mask on ourselves first before we try to help other people.
We could probably do a whole podcast episode just on helping leaders step back. I think that is one of the biggest changes that executives and senior leaders face is they refuse to step back. And they think that they're doing that to better themselves, to better their organization. But the reality is, by them not putting their own oxygen mask on, they're not able to help their team and their organization.
No, and the challenge is that, we end up teaching what we know, but we produce who we are. And and if I'm not healthy, I first have to look at me. If I have unhealthy relationships, I don't play the blame game. I just have to step back and realize, okay, what is it in me that's producing this? There's something in me. And if I can get that fixed, and John, I have to believe that, because if I don't believe that, then I have no control over anything. If I believe it's always outside of me, it's that person's fault, or this, or the economy, or the regulations, all of a sudden, those are the things that have control over me.
Yeah. And do you think, are there some real business return on investments when an organization takes the time to invest into their team, providing care to their caregivers? Are there some real world return on investments that impact their patients or their residents that follow all the way through that you can track to that?
Oh, absolutely, John. I mean, one very simple one is I asked these leaders one time in Kentucky at one of the big events, and I asked them, I said, how much time do you spend during the week trying to uncover what your team is hiding from you? And I actually had an administrator say 40 hours a week. And I was like, oh my gosh, we need to give you a group hug, right? I thought, wow, what a job. Okay, but you think about how much time do leaders burn trying to uncover what people are hiding? Yeah. And then how much time do team members spend hiding what we don't want our leaders to find out? And it's this whole wasting of time. And we can track it down to millions of dollars in actually wasted time. And in fact, the new Gallup survey, they said people actually only work about 2.5 hours every day.
Wow.
Of actual work.
Right.
Of actual work.
Productive, impactful work.
Yeah, because we're just spending all of our time in the drama, and it's just got to stop. And the reality is that we don't have to put up with it. And I'm really glad you're doing this podcast for caregivers, because it's rampant in our industry, And I just want to say we don't have to put up with it. We don't have to make excuses. We don't have to tolerate it. And it's like whatever you tolerate stays in your life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good segue to my next question, and that is, what keeps you up at night? As you're going to these healthcare organizations and you're working with their teams, what are some things that keep you up at night? And I'll let you answer it one or both ways. Either what keeps you up, like you're super excited, man, this is a great opportunity for the healthcare industry, or some things that are, wow, this really is a concern. What are some things that you're seeing that keeps you up at night?
Yeah, John, probably the biggest thing is that it just doesn't have to be this way. Teams, a popular saying, in fact, we've got a new book coming out in a couple months, Drama-Free Nursing. And, the phrase, nurses eating their young. And these things don't have to be this way. And many times it's just one or two skills that we have to develop in leading our teams. And so I'm really on this mission to make the quality of work for caregivers so much better. And, they have a thankless job. And in fact, if you're a caregiver listening today, I just want to just tell you thank you. I think it's a thankless job that you do. And I've just devoted my entire life to serving people exactly like you.
So if there's someone that wants to get some information on No Drama, connect with you, resources, how can they reach you, get some resources on creating drama-free teams?
Okay, so here is the best way to do it. We've got a drama-free excuse buster training video we'll send you. I've got the 101 mistakes leaders make in dealing with drama. But here's what you can do that's super easy, is just simply take out your cell phone and text No Drama. It's two different words, NODRAMA, No Drama, to 345-345. That's 345-345. Just text it over to that number, and you'll get some training videos and just some free resources, because I want to do everything I can to serve you.
Awesome. Well, Dennis, thank you so much. I really do appreciate what you're doing. I think that your goal of caring for caregivers you're exactly right. It's a thankless job, and I really do appreciate the work you're doing. And thank you so much for being part of the show.
Hey, thanks, John, and keep up the good work.
All right. Thanks a lot. Well, if you found this episode valuable, please do us a favor and subscribe to Coffee with John in iTunes and leave an honest rating. Now, if you'd like to listen to previous episodes, you can visit us at coffeewithjohn.com. That's coffeewithjohn.com. Also, if you have comments, ideas, and topic suggestions, connect with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. All of the links are at coffeewithjohn.com.
Slept in, cause I don't care, and didn't make the bed. Sip coffee on my couch, what can I do instead? No work, it's only fun, cause it's all okay. Cause you never